Today, we're going to try putting air-filled tires on the Permobil M3 to see how much it improves the ride quality. Now, I used to have an M300, I think it was my second power chair ever, and I swapped over to all air-filled tires on that one, drive tires and all the casters. It did improve the ride quality quite a bit, but when you put air-filled tires on things, then you have to worry about stuff like flat tires. So, kind of a trade-off, but I'm curious on this M3, with the suspension that it has, how much of an improvement we're gonna get. I went ahead and ordered some tires. I got them from Monster Scooter Parts. These are highway tread tires. I think they were like $25 for a pair or something. They were on clearance. The foam filled, or the Primo Duratrap, I believe is the standard tread pattern and tire that's used for the foam filled ones on most Permobil chairs, and really pretty much any production power chair that I can think of. But they wanted like $85 for the version that didn't have foam in it, and they were out of stock. So I got these instead. They're the same size, different tread. I can't tell if they're bigger diameter or not. They look pretty similar, but we'll find out. We've got a couple of tubes to put in there as well. And if you're gonna do this, you need to get tubes that are right angle. I'll show you why when we install these. But if you have straight valve stems, or yeah, valve stem, that's what I mean. If you have a straight valve stem, you're not gonna be able to get air in the tire, and it's gonna be really difficult to install it in the wheels. But luckily, pretty much all Permobils sold, and actually a lot of power chairs for that matter, their wheels are already set up to accommodate air-filled tires. I was gonna try and figure out some like scientific way to quantify how much better the ride is, like maybe put something on my lap and have several glasses full of water or a bowl full of water or something like that. But then I decided I'm just gonna film running up and down a couple ramps in the house, and I can describe it or liken it to other chairs that I've used before. And I think if I say, you know, better or significantly better or worse or whatever, I think that's probably about as good as we can get. So anyways. All right, here we have our M3 Permobil, and we're just gonna pop off these drive wheels. It's a pretty easy process. I haven't actually split one of these new wheels. Actually, let me see here. Yeah, there's a hole right there where the valve stem will come out of. I'll show you that in just a minute. But basically, we're just gonna pull the wheel off, so you gotta remove these little caps here. You just kind of reach around behind the spoke, and there's little clips that engage on there. So when this is on the chair, you basically reach around with your finger and you need to pull out on this little tab, and those will pop right off. So there's our 6mm 3/8 drive ratchet. I usually like to break these loose with my palm. Just make sure it's fully engaged and then kind of punch it with your palm, and it should break it loose. Then from there, they're pretty easy to take out. But in this case, because I'm exquisitely lazy, or maybe it's due to my efficiency, we're going to use power tools, because why not? Now that they're broken loose, this quarter drive should work. So let's look at the back here. Ah, yes. Ew, gross, what is that? So you can see here we've got 6 Allen bolts, and these are what hold the two halves of the split wheel together. Now these are foam-filled tires, so we can safely remove these. If these were air-filled tires, you would want to let all of the air out of the tire before you go removing these. Because if you don't, well, all the pressure inside the tube is gonna force this thing apart, and things are probably gonna hit you in the face, and, well, not gonna have a good time. There we go. Looks like these have Loctite on them. Now we can separate the two halves of the wheel. This is just sort of a locking ring that holds the tire onto the wheel. And then this should roughly just pull out. There we go. So these two halves fit together like this, and that's what holds your tire onto the wheel. Ah, so these are the Primo Power Tracks, not the Duratrap. I got the name wrong. But anyways, yeah, these are the ones that are filled with foam. But basically that's code for they're rock hard. So we're gonna take off half the wheel. I like to do this with the front face down on the floor. Then we're going to grab one of our tires. This is when we find out if they fit. Oh, look at that, they do. Excellent. At this point, I'm going to grab one of the tubes and we're going to put the tube inside the tire. Usually to do this, I like to inflate the tube just a little bit, and that makes it a lot easier to fit it in there and avoid getting these edges pinched when we put the wheel back together. I've got a little bicycle air compressor here, which I've prepared earlier. It just plugs into a wall outlet. We don't need to put very much air in here at all, just enough so that the tube kind of holds its shape. Oh, actually I forgot. I want to put tire slime in here. Always use tire slime on these things, or at least I like to. It just gives you a fighting chance if you do happen to get a flat tire or get a nail in your tire. All the air is probably going to leak out before the tire slime will actually seal it up, but at least if you have an air compressor nearby, you can refill the tires and you'll be okay. It's a lot easier to find someone with an air compressor to refill your tires as opposed to changing your tire when you're out running around. So actually I should probably shake this up. So we're just going to put some of this in here. And put our valve stem back in. By the way, the cap of the bottle of tire slime has a built-in valve stem removal tool. There we go. Now we can put some air in it. Alright, that's plenty. And we'll go ahead and jam this tube into our tire. Alright, there we go. Tube's inside. It's not overhanging these edges at all. Now we want to grab the bottom half of our wheel here, and this notch is what the tube's going to go in. So you want to line that up with your valve stem here and set it down on there. Now here you can see that little notch is going to accommodate this valve stem when we put the top half of the wheel on there. And same thing with this. There's going to be a little flat spot. There it is right there. And that's going to go right on top of this. There we go. And that holds everything in place. You can see there how our valve stem is poking out through that hole. But I just realized we put this on backwards. This is the back of the wheel. That valve stem needs to be coming out the front. So let's flip this around. There's our notch. Here's our valve stem. There we go. All lined up. Line up this one. Put it on there. I'm just going to double check one more time to make sure no part of our tube is sticking out here. Because if the tube happens to be sticking out and you clamp these two pieces together, it's basically going to cut your tube in half. So we want to avoid doing that. Now we can go ahead and get our 6 Allen bolts back in here that hold the two halves of the wheel together. There we go. Then I'm going to tighten them up by hand just because quarter drive impacts, you can never really tell how much torque you're getting on stuff, so I always like to do it by hand. So at this point, I'm going to put some air in it and see what happens. These are rated for, I think, 38 PSI. Yeah, 36 or 38, can't tell which, but let's go ahead and fill her up. Just gonna check and make sure everything is lined up. There's a little ring on the tire itself, and you can check and make sure it's even all the way around, because it is possible for these to get slightly off center. Yeah, looks like we're good. Keep going. And there we go, some amount of pressure. Just for fun, let's compare the two and see if we have any height difference here at all. Yeah, it would appear as though our new tires are a little bit taller. Can you see that? Yeah, see? They're a little bit bigger diameter. I was curious if that was going to happen switching to a different brand. I don't think that's going to cause any issues, but definitely an interesting note. We do have a little bit of a difference here. Let's put our valve stem cap on there and jam it back on the chair. I'm curious if this will interfere with the fenders or not. Yeah, it looks like we've still got clearance. Let's get a couple of the bolts in and see where we're at. Oh, one other interesting note. I know it usually happens with most new tires, but I found a lot of times with air-filled ones as well. These things will probably squeak like crazy when you're running around for a little bit. So I guess we'll see what happens there. All right, there we go. And yeah, it looks like we've got clearance. Don't hear anything rubbing. So let's go ahead and put a cap back on. When you put these on here, it may seem like they've snapped into place, but you have to reach in to each one of these spokes and make sure it clicks in. Listen carefully. See? Sometimes one of them will clip in. Yeah, bottom one clipped in, but the other two didn't. So you have to reach in there with your finger and actually push down, and now it's actually in there. All right, I'm gonna spin the chair around, do the other side. I don't need to film that because, yeah, reasons. And I'll be right back. Oh, and anytime you're in here and you've got your wheels off, it's always best to check your motor shafts because there's usually always going to be hair and other debris in there. So always a good time to clean that stuff out. I kind of like the way these new tires look. This tread is, I don't know, it looks a little different. I mean, it is highway tread, but I don't know. It gives the chair a little bit more of a beefy look. These caster wheels definitely need replacing, but yeah, we're not doing that today. All right, let's hit the ramp in the laundry room and see what we get. It's still not the smoothest ride in town, but it's a lot better. Yeah. All right, let's go back out to the front porch and see what that looks like compared to before. I just realized there's one other thing we need to test with this brand and model of tire, and that would be, do they leave black streaks on the ground? And are they gonna mark up your floors? I didn't see anything on the website about them marking out or not. It's hard to tell. So we're gonna go out on the front porch and I'm gonna do some skids and see what happens. It's kind of hard to see, but we did leave some black marks on the ground. Yeah, there you go. Now, that was a full speed, like, panic stop with the tires basically just stopping rotating instantly. So, not too bad, but yeah, you can see right here, there is definitely some marking. If for some reason you live in a house that has like white tile or something like that, you probably want to be careful. But I don't think turning on the floors in here, just under normal maneuvering conditions, that you would have an issue necessarily. So yeah, I approve them. It was like, well, I need to, hang on. I'm going to run some numbers real quick and see what I actually spent on all this stuff, and then I'll let you know what it cost. All right, so the tires were $23 each. And the tubes were $10 each. So it's roughly $65, $66, something like that. By the way, I'm sitting back in my F3 now. That chair, the way the suspension is on it, is not something I can use daily. And putting these air-filled tires on there, it made it a little bit better, but the ride is still bumpy enough that I'm not able to use it. It all comes down to the question, should you put air-filled tires on your chair? The answer to that is I don't know. In this particular case, the suspension and the ride quality on this chair is a little bit too bumpy for me. When your front caster wheels encounter an obstacle, they tip up, and it basically forces all that upward motion into those little rubber dampers that the chair has behind the wheels. And that effectively transfers it right into the seating and into you. So the first initial bump when hitting something is still about the same, but the secondary bump is much better with the air tires on here. I don't know if it's worth the trade-off for potentially getting flat tires to have slightly better ride quality. That's something you'll have to decide. If you're in a situation where you've got people that can come help you, or maybe you're not too far away from your house, or like me, you know, I can always call someone and say, hey, go grab my other van and come pick me up. You know, in my case, I'm not really too worried about flats. I have had flat tires before when I've been a long ways from the house on days I wasn't driving, and it ruins your day. Most chairs, the tolerances are such with the fenders and the frame of the chair and the motors and everything that when a tire goes flat, it squishes out and the chair leans at a weird angle, and it kind of screws with the mid-wheel drive geometry quite a bit, but that extra rubber that's flopping around in there is going to get caught on stuff. And it's extremely difficult to push a chair with a flat tire. So even if you got someone there and they can like push you into a vehicle or something, I mean, they might be able to do it, but they might also have to cut that tire off of there, and it just turns into a mess. If you're someone that likes air-filled tires and you already use them, you kind of understand what I'm talking about. It's like, yeah, there are risks involved, but you get a little bit better traction. You can adjust your traction by airing the tires up and down. Yeah. So overall, I don't think I can recommend to everyone, like, go ditch your foam-filled tires and get air-filled ones. They're awesome. It's one of those things. I'm just presenting the information to you. In my particular case, with that particular chair, not so much. I mean, I'm gonna leave them on there. I don't use that chair a whole lot anyways. I mostly just got this one to be able to film some tutorials and repair videos and things like that. I might try putting those tires on this F3 just for fun. The F3 has really good ride quality, and even more so now that I've adjusted the shocks on it, which, by the way, when I get my new F3, we're gonna be retrofitting F5 shocks onto it. I found out they are available for sale, and they're not too ungodly expensive, so we're gonna do that. But air-filled tires on this F3, I think will make the ride quality even better. You know, more is better, right? Three's a party, whatever you say, I don't know. I can't even string words together right now. It's either too much or not enough coffee, I think. Why is this blinking at me? Oh, the memory card's almost full. Let's wrap this up. Is it worth it? Probably not. Costs you about 65, 66 bucks, something like that. You gotta get them installed. And the other thing is too, you're gonna have to occasionally top up the air on these tires. They're not like 100% sealed. I mean, if you put nitrogen in there, it'd probably be fine, but rubber's porous, and you're gonna have to top up the pressure in your tires maybe every 2 to 4 weeks, something like that. Anyways, there's my thoughts on the subject. You can decide whether you like it or not. Worst case scenario, you can just buy them and try it out, and you could keep one of your foam-filled tires in the van, and if you get a flat, you can just swap it on fairly easily. But anyways, there you go. Hopefully you enjoyed, and let me know what your thoughts are down below in the comments. I'm actually kind of curious how many people run with air-filled tires versus the foam-filled ones. The older foam-filled tires used to be a lot better. The tires would actually flare out on the bottom, and they were a lot more like air-filled tires, but the newer foam ones rock hard. So anyways, let me know your thoughts on that, and I'll see you guys in a few days.